As we mentioned earlier, President Trump is leaving the G7 early this evening, and it is one day early to return to D.C. because of the escalating situation in the Middle East. And we have learned Secretary of State Marco Rubio is coming back with him. Trump has requested that the National Security Council be ready in the Situation Room when he arrives home. Let's get right into it with Jeremy Bash, former chief of staff at the CIA and the Pentagon. Jeremy, what does all this signal to you? I know we have limited information.
Yeah, it could be one of two things, Stephanie. Look, either President Trump is getting ready to initiate a major peace offering, meaning to try to negotiate maybe a deal with Iran here. There's some reports tonight that he wants J.D. Vance to meet with the Iranians along with Steve Witkoff, the envoy. But there's also another kind of scenario in which Trump is planning to join the military operation alongside Israel and possibly commit U.S. forces into the region, both in a defensive mode or potentially in an offensive mode to go after some of Iran's nuclear infrastructure that Israel cannot bomb on its own, meaning the Fordo enrichment plant underground, which would require a U.S. capability, the massive ordnance penetrator, the 30,000, 20-foot-long bomb that's carried by a B-2 stealth bomber. If Trump were to commit such a force to this fight and try to finish off Fordo, that could really end or at least significantly delay and dismantle Iran's nuclear program. So we don't really know which direction the White House is going in tonight, but clearly they see this 100-hour war so far as at a pivotal moment.
Okay, well, those two directions couldn't be further apart.
That's right.
So given the ladder that you just laid out for us and what the United States could potentially do you actually believe that a U.S.-Iran deal is still on the table? Because Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth on Fox News tonight said it is still possible. Do you think it's salvageable?
Look, I don't see the Iranians rushing back to the table right now and signing up, crying uncle, saying, make this stop. I think it's possible that they could say they want to discuss the offer that was last on the table when U.S. and Iranian negotiators were supposed to meet in Oman last Sunday as a way to maybe forestall some of Israel's actions. But, you know, I don't necessarily see the Israeli government agreeing to stop. I mean, they went ahead even amid the discussions between between Iran and the United States. And I think Israel has the upper hand right now. They have achieved intelligence dominance. They have achieved air superiority. They have put personnel on the ground. Yes, there have been some casualties suffered in Israel as the air defenses have taken out about 90% of the incoming Iranian ballistic missiles. But if I'm Israel, I'm thinking we've got dominance over the skies. Let's not only go after the nuclear infrastructure, but let's take out this ballistic missile infrastructure that is threatening not just Israel, but in fact the entire region and maybe even the United States.
Then given that, put into context, we've learned, or at least we think we've learned, that Trump vetoed Israel's plan to assassinate Iran's supreme leader. But Netanyahu still has not ruled out going through with this. To your point, he shouldn't necessarily, given the strong hand he has. But what does all of that tell you about Donald Trump's influence?
Well, look, I obviously think any American president has tremendous influence over our allies and partners. We support Israel with weapons. We support Israel with intelligence. And by the way, Israel also supports the United States with intelligence and with carrying out very sensitive missions on behalf of both countries. So it is a partnership. I've seen the partnership work hand in glove from my time at the Pentagon and inside the intelligence community. I think this report with respect to the supreme leader, look, I think Israel has concluded, hey, we weren't able to finish off Hezbollah until we took out the leadership there. We weren't able to finish off Hamas, or at least really degrade Hamas, until we took out Sinwar and the leadership there, including the political leadership. And Israel has taken off the battlefield several of Iranian senior Quds Force leaders, IRGC leaders, and military leaders. And I think the political leadership, the ones that have wanted to build an atomic weapon for the Islamic Republic of Iran, are also, in the minds of Israel, in some respects, fair game. I think Trump is trying to prevent a wider war here, so maybe he doesn't like that idea. But I think it's really only a matter of time before Israel decides it needs to target the very senior leadership of Iran.
Well, experts are concerned that this thing could last weeks, not days, because they don't see an off-ramp. Do you?
Well, let's do the math. I mean, Iran probably has about 2,000 ballistic missiles. They fired about 500 last year. So say they have 1,500 left. They fired about, 500 or so already in this war. So they've got 10, 12, 14 days worth of ballistic missiles left to fire. And again, if Israel's only able to take out 90%, which, by the way, is a very impressive number, don't get me wrong, but it still means that 10% of those missiles, 100, 120, 130, are going into populated areas in Israel. Then it's going to be a very dicey week to 10 days to 2 weeks. I don't see it winding down in time before then unless Trump is able to really push the parties to stop fighting. But I think Israel wants to do as much damage as possible before it's pressured into any sort of ceasefire.